Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, coming to you from the Lee Company Studios here on West 7th Street in Columbia, joined by Wade Neely, coming to you from the remote Lee Company Studio in our Pulaski headquarters. Good Thursday to those who observe. Good WCWS opening day to those who observe, as it actually kind of snuck up on me a little bit. They have begun play out in Oklahoma City. Alabama and UCLA are at it right now. 3 more games to follow. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show. But Wade, how's your Thursday? We were talking off air prior to the show. It's been a little busy for you, it seems.
Yeah, busy Thursday. We'll tap into that during our top story. But as I just told somebody, the sun is out, the sun is shining, and the cicadas are kind of quiet. So all is well on this Thursday, I think, by and large. How about you, my friend?
I think the cicadas in my neighborhood may have drowned or gotten pelted to death with the hail that we got over the weekend, because it's been pretty quiet. Now, I hear in other spots in Franklin, they're still creating a buzz. But I've not heard any the last 2 or 3 days. And, our guys came and mowed the yard today, and they weren't getting attacked. So I don't know where they went, but I'm not asking questions either.
No. I don't mind the noise, but man, it is interesting. And I just noticed when I walked out earlier today, I was just taking a little lap in the neighborhood, and I was like, yeah, it feels like they're retreating in some capacity. I don't know if they've moved to a different block or like what's going on, but they've kind of vacated my area, at least for now.
I'm kind of like you. They've not really bothered me, but you certainly notice when they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, got a great show today. Coach's Corner is our next segment. We're going to visit with Zach Curtis, Loretto baseball coach. He's got a little hardware with him coming out of last week's spring fling. As the Mustangs won the Class 2A state championship, we will also be handing out a little hardware of our own. The final Team of the Week and Athlete of the Week awards for the 2023-24 school year will be acknowledged during that segment. We're also going to visit with friend of the show, Joe Sullivan from NASHVILLEHOOPS.BLOG, as it seems that the dust has settled from the transfer portal, and we have a better idea of what some of our local college basketball teams are going to look like for the 2024-25 season. And Joe's going to kind of help us navigate that a little bit. We will talk a little bit about the Braves, because there's some good to talk about, not a lot. We'll talk a little bit about the Astros, because there's not a lot of good to talk about, but we do it anyway. Yeah. And as we said, it's Throwback Thursday. We're going to throw it back to a recent conversation that we had with Valer Shabilla, talking about the Nashville Soccer Club in the aftermath of Gary Smith's firing. And things had not been great since that move, but they've gotten a little better here in the last 24 hours. So figured it was a good time to revisit that. So we will do that at the top of the second hour of the show. We will be with you for the next 2 hours talking sports of local, regional, and national interests. So stay with us here in the Lee Company Studios. And Wade, I guess now that we've set up the show, we can get it started with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the Rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Buckle up, boys and girls. It is time for the Thursday Rundown. Major League Baseball scores from last night. Nationals defeating the Braves. 7-2 was your final score there. The Mariners knocked off the Astros in extra innings last night. 2-1 was the final tally up in Seattle. Sounds picked up a nice win last night, 9-4 versus Memphis. In WNBA action, couple of close games as the Liberty edged the Phoenix 81-78. It was the Atlanta Dream knocking off the Washington Mystics 73-67. And the Vegas Aces got a nice road win last night, Mo, defeating Minnesota 80-66. And as we touched on a moment ago, speaking of nice road wins, Nashville SC goes on the road and knocks off Cincinnati. FC Cincinnati 0, Nashville SC 2. Those were your scores from last night.
Your schedule for today, it's a short one. Get used to these, though, because with no high school stuff going on, these are going to be quick. Houston continues its series at Seattle with a 3:10 start. So they'll be starting here in about an hour or so. You can see it on ESPN Plus at 6:20 this evening. The Nationals and the Braves wrap up a 4-game series in Atlanta. You can see that one on the MLB Network and on Valley Sports South. Again, that's a 6:20 first pitch there. The Sounds continue their series out at AutoZone Park against the Memphis Redbirds at 7:05. And in the WNBA, Seattle is at Indiana. That's a 6 o'clock start on Amazon. And the Sparks are at the Sky. That one's at 7 o'clock. That is your rundown. Top story brought to you as always by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and get through there for their delicious daily deli lunch items that they serve until 6. So early dinner as well. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. So Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And, you know, we're going to double up here because news never rests. But last night, as we mentioned, Nashville went to Cincinnati, picked up a 2-0 victory in MLS play. Jack Mayer and Jacob Schaffelberg scoring in the opening 30 minutes. And then the defense getting it done. Joe Willis? Is that his last name?
Mm-hmm.
With the clean sheet.
Yep, Joe says no.
I like it. I like it. What is that? Their 4th win in MLS?
Yep. We just mentioned yesterday how they'd only had 3, but we're kind of still in the mix. So they got win number 4. And kind of like we touched yesterday, Mo, I would not have been shocked if they had gone up and lost 2-0. I wouldn't have been shocked if they'd gone up and drawn. And I would have been semi-shocked if they galvanized, kind of got a little win there. And they, lo and behold, they did. 2 early goals, and they made them hold up in the shutout at Cincinnati.
And Cincinnati is pretty good, right?
Second in
Relatively
the East.
speaking.
So, I mean, they didn't necessarily beat a slappy by any means. They played Cincinnati pretty close and pretty tough on a handful of occasions in the last couple of years, but going on the road, kind of not really sure where you're headed. Rumba Muntali, the interim head coach, you know, he had 2 draws in his first 2 outings as the interim boss there, but went on the road and got a win. First win for interim head coach Rumba Muntali.
Yeah, that's big. That's got to be big for him. And, you know, we talk about the fact that Nashville hasn't won a lot, but they are unbeaten in their last 4 outings because they won their last one before Gary Smith got dismissed. They had the 2 draws, like you mentioned, and then they won last night. So they are 2-0-2 in their last 4, which is probably what's kind of kept them in the mix, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, and Belair mentions it in our segment that we'll have for Throwback Thursday. It doesn't take a lot. Things can seem so bleak. Things can seem so dire. But in the sport of soccer, it does not take much. A win here, a draw there, depending on, you know, kind of the makeup of your team. And all of a sudden, you're kind of clicking. And who knows with Nashville? You know, there's I still don't know that it's they're still going to end up going out and getting a manager. The question is, you know, does this maybe run or miniature run extend that timeline? But they have played themselves at least into the playoffs. If it were to end today, they'd be in as the 9 seed. So they're right in the thick of things, and it'd be very interesting to see what happens over these next couple of matches. As Nashville's got a little mojo, they got their swagger back, Mo.
Yeah, and you know what's funny, Wade, is as we talked to Valaire, and as you'll hear at the top of the second hour, you know, they have really kind of been Titan-ish in their approach. Play defense and keep it close and maybe just get just enough offense to win. And that's really what it looked like last night. Again, Joe Willis with his third clean sheet in his last 4 outings, 2 goals. They're playing low scoring soccer and keeping you from scoring. And traditionally, it's been a pretty good combination for NSC, and it was last night. By the way, Hani Mukhtar assisted on both those goals. So even though he didn't put one in the back of the net, he's still in the midst of NSC's offense, obviously.
Yeah, it was nice to see them go on the road. It was kind of funny. Some of the Cincinnati fans, this is MLS, the quality of play is not to the level that you might see across the rest of the world, but don't tell that to the fans because they really kind of get at each other, and especially these drivable rivalries. And Cincinnati's kind of firmly in that drivable territory, and they were kind of roasting the Nashville fans for not really showing up and kind of supporting the guys last night. They said it doesn't matter. We knew we were going to get the win, 2-0 on the road. I think coming out of that match, yeah, you're excited for Nashville, but you're also probably I would feel more embarrassed about that if I were Cincinnati than I would be excited if I were Nashville at this current moment.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be talking too much smack in the aftermath of that one if you are Cincinnati. Again, number 2 in the standings. And,
by a wide margin, too. They're 7 points clear of New York for the 3rd spot. So, I mean, they're 1 point off Miami, who also had to rally for a win last night. They're 1 point off of being the number 1 team in the East right now.
NSC 3-2-3 all time against Cincinnati. So we own Cincinnati. But no, sets up a big match Saturday as the boys return to Geodis Park to take on the New England Revolution. That's a 7:30 start Saturday night. So get on out there for that one.
Back at the crib, and in New England, I think it's maybe, sorry if I cut you off. That's they're not great. So this is how crazy the sport is. Last night, you might have been okay with the draw, going on the road, playing one of the top 2 teams in the entire MLS. But you get back at home Saturday, and if you draw versus New England, now you're going to feel kind of a letdown. So it'd be nice to see them go out and pick up a win on Saturday.
Build a little momentum there in the win column. Top story number 1 in Nashville Soccer Club picks up a road win. Top story number 2, there is a coaching change afoot at a local institution. And for more on that, Wade Neely.
Yeah, this news kind of caught a lot of folks in Pulaski by surprise, Mo, as UT Southern, who is already in the midst of a coaching search for its women's basketball job, is now in the midst of a search for its men's job as 6-year head coach Dugan Line, per an official school release, is departing, resigning to, quote, pursue a new coaching opportunity. And we could get into that a little bit later, but the fact of the matter is he's done a great job. Got to work with him for a long, long time there. Good friend. Excited for him and his family. And he departs after 6 years. So that was what jumped out to me, Mo, was that this news just in general, but also the fact that UT still is looking for a women's coach. So athletic director Brandy Paul probably wasn't thrilled when that all went down, because now instead of one coaching position, at 2 of your premier sports, your basketball programs, now you're looking for a second as well, as Dugan is going to depart.
Conducting multiple coaching searches at the same time can't be a whole lot of fun. So,
no, I'm not envious of Brandy Paul in that regard by any stretch. You would think that the women's job is probably getting close to being filled.
It's been vacant for a pretty good while, hasn't it?
Yeah, Billy Evans announced in early March that he was retiring. And ironically, this will shock you, Mo, but we're a small town here. You run into people a lot. I ran into Billy Evans. He's one of my next door neighbors, as a matter of fact. And he told me that he really stressed when he was getting ready to depart hey, don't shortchange this job and just go out and hire somebody young. Don't go out and hire somebody, just on the cheap. Really do your due diligence, because this is an attractive job. Even if this is his own words, he said, even if I haven't done a great job with it the last couple of years. But he said, this is a job. I love Coach Evans, and this is a job that does have some merit to it. The Southern States is a competitive league, but UTS has won it in the women's. They've won it obviously in the men's with the regular season championship this year. So those are two high-profile jobs that now, as you touched on before we went on air, Martin Methodist, it was already a high-profile gig, but now you kind of got that backing with UT, and they're slowly starting to see some of the fruits of that labor and that association and affiliation carry over. So I think this is a really nice job, and whoever it is that comes in to replace Coach Dugan-Line will be set up for success. I will say this, though. They do lose 5 really good seniors, and they lose 2 or 3 key other players that were seniors as well, including Darian Hudson, who basically rewrote every record in the entire program's history. So whoever comes in, first year, going to have a little bit of some work to do, no doubt. But in the long term, I think this is still a pretty attractive job.
A couple of things in what you just said, Wade. One, I really admire somebody with the self-awareness that Coach Evans exhibited to you in that conversation there. I mean, yeah, this is a great job. I just didn't do very well at it, I like that. And two, one of the things that I was fascinated with when it was announced that Martin Methodist was going to become UT Southern was, how would that move from private school to public school impact from an athletic standpoint? How would it impact their recruiting and that kind of thing? And I'm still kind of excited to see how that goes. So that's really interesting. And like you said, it to me kind of elevates those programs and those positions and kind of puts that administration in a different pool when it comes to who you consider for those positions.
I think so. And if you're going to compare the two gigs directly, women's basketball had a really strong run, and even Billy's first year or two had some success. But historically, they have been the quote-unquote weaker of the two programs if you just want to stack them up in terms of achievements and wins and losses and things like that. So men's basketball is probably going to get a little better pool of applicants, you would think, off the jump. But that's why also Billy mentioned the other day, he said, hey, you're probably going to get your usual young up-and-coming coaches trying to get their first foot in the door. You're also going to get some, people that you maybe want to hire on the cheap. But he said, if you do your due diligence, I think you'll end up with a good candidate. So I'm going to be fascinated, if nothing else, because like you touched on, that gig's been open since March, and we're sitting here almost early June. You're wondering who's going to take that over. I imagine the men's process would go a little quicker, but who knows?
While we're talking NAIA basketball, Wade, something that I saw, something else that we missed while we were at Spring Fling last week. We spoke with the Freed Hardeman coach after they won their national championship a few weeks ago. Well, one of the key players on that team, J.J. Wheat, went into the transfer portal. He has come out in Mobile with South Alabama. He will have 2 years of eligibility remaining, I believe, after averaging 13 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals a game while helping Freed to that NAIA national championship. So that's a big bounce for the kid from Clarksville, from NAIA to pretty solid NCAA Division I program in South Alabama. So looking forward to seeing how he does down there. But yeah, that's that's the portal these days, right?
Portal comes, portal goes. And NAIA has produced some quality players. It already produced some quality transfers, especially as we'll talk to Zach here in a moment, head coach at Loretto. You see a lot of NAIA baseball players that go on and do great things at Division I schools. Basketball was already on that trend anyway, but now that the fact that the portal is kind of expediting that,
Right.
you're seeing a lot of good talent. And so props to him, man. Talk about a nice move there, going from Henderson, Tennessee to the beach and going Division I. That's not a bad come up, my man.
Yeah, and I like the way you put that, because that might be I'm not sure if that's the order or not, Division I and the beach, or the beach and Division I.
Pick your poison there, I suppose.
Absolutely. He's
your
trying
preference.
he's getting the best of both worlds there, especially coming out of Henderson. So let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back to the Lee Company Studios, it'll be Coach's Corner. It'll be state championship baseball coach Zach Curtis joining us. Stay tuned.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another real estate auction Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m. in the beautiful Hickory Woods subdivision. This spacious estate offers numerous amenities, perfect for the homeowner or investor. Conveniently located in Davidson County, Tennessee at 221 Wild Grove Court. This is the sale you don't want to miss. Join Bluegrass and bid with confidence. Saturday, June 8th at 10 a.m.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back to Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. It is Coach's Corner, and we are visiting with The picture that we have on our title card does not do this guy justice any longer by any means, but former Hendersonville High School standout, former MTSU standout, former Major League Baseball player Zach Curtis, now the skipper of the state championship Loretto Mustangs, joining us here on Main Street Sports today on Coach's Corner. Coach,
how you doing, guys?
What's up?
Doing well. You
I enjoyed that picture, by the way. That's a good one.
How old was that picture?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's either, I'm trying to look at it. It had to have been either when I was with the Phillies in 18 or the Rangers in 19.
So that wasn't even the D-backs then, huh?
No, not at all. So yeah. So I think that was with Iron Pigs, to be honest with you, because I had a headshot with them, and I think that was the longest my hair was flowing in my career was when I was with the Iron Pigs in AAA with the Phillies.
It is a good flow, though.
It's a great flow. It's a very, very impressive flow. Absolutely. We're going to hold that over your head and maybe show it to your guys or something at some point. But
listen, we have a Christmas party every year, and one of the Secret Santa gifts this year was, if I'm not mistaken, it was that exact picture right there on a T-shirt. And Clint Seymour wore it under his jersey for about 2 months. So
they have seen it then, huh?
Oh, listen, they've seen they found everything they could find on me.
The beauty of the internet, right?
Exactly. And I was born right when everything was popping and going off. So they could find everything from high school all the way through.
Coach, congratulations. Loretto won the state championship in 2017 under Gary Lamb, who stepped down at the end of the 2020 season.
Right.
And you stepped in there, and a first-time head coach, I'm sure it's not always been an easy transition for you, but the expectations at Loretto that Coach Lamb built have not subsided under your tenure or during your tenure. And to get this team back to Murfreesboro and to get another state title under your belt, I mean, what is the emotion there, given everything that goes with Loretto baseball?
No, it's almost indescribable is the way I've been putting it lately, is the foundation Coach Lamb laid and the players from Jacob Laws and Ryan and Blade and a lot of the guys that were in that 2017 team and even a couple years before that, they laid the foundation for what Loretto baseball is now. And like you said, coming into it, the expectation didn't change. Even though I was new to the coaching world and all that and everything that came with it, the expectation never changed and the community never changed in their wavering support but their expectation as well for what this team could do. So to see these guys work as hard as they have, especially this group of seniors for the past 4 years, because they knew they were my first guys, they were my first class to come through, and to see them, they've always been successful. I'll say this about this group of seniors. They've been successful. They've had 2 sub-states, a Final Four, and a state championship under the belt. So to me, as a high school athlete, that's pretty successful.
Hey, they've not just been successful in baseball either.
Absolutely not. It doesn't matter what ball it doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, baseball. The guys just know how to win and they know how to compete. And so I think the biggest thing they wanted to do is just go out there and it sounds kind of, I don't want to put any shade or any shadow over 2017, but they wanted to get that team out of their vision and now become that team. And so I'd always kind of preach to them like, hey, if you don't want to hear about that team anymore, become that team. And so they did it this year, and I'm super proud for them, and they did a great job.
Coach, it's interesting that you say that because right after you guys hoist the championship, I talked to one of your seniors, and I asked Miles Moore, who had a great tournament for you guys, and I didn't really phrase it quite like that, and he gave a very friendly and politically correct answer, but you could sense that this team wanted to go out and make their own mark and kind of be a new foundation, and he surmised it best. He kind of wanted to set a new standard for Loretto baseball. What does that mean to you, knowing that your guys kind of have been taking that vision upon themselves to try and now build something even further than what was already a really successful program?
I mean, it's awesome to see that they said they feel that way, and they encompass that motto that I had, be that team, be those guys. They kept saying 18 guys and one goal all year. Like, no matter what happens, everything's happened for a reason, but they had one goal in mind. And it was funny. It didn't matter whether it was the district championship, region championship, sub-state, anything like that. First win, I'd always say, hey, great job. And they would say, but the job's not done. They never wavered in that thought process of the job's not done. I think because they've had a taste of it. I mean, those guys have, and so getting to the Final Four 2 years ago with this group of seniors left a taste in their mouth that they wanted more. And so for them to want to lay a different foundation, add on to the foundation, and build from what those guys before them did is pretty special. And I told them, and I told the parents when we got back to Loretto that night, that this group and this team, to me, has propelled Loretto baseball for another 10 years.
I think so. And Coach, you made you just put a thought in my head. What does the celebration in Loretto look like? I kind of have a few thoughts, but what does a proper celebration in Loretto look like?
You know, I didn't know it until we were getting back, and Nick Moore was sitting on the bus with me, and David was sitting on the bus, and they said, "You're fixing to see something pretty special." And we had because we have 2 state troopers as parents on our team, and they picked us up in, I would say, Summertown. And again, no shade on anybody, but they wanted to pull up in Summertown to everybody know from Summertown to Lawrence County to all the way through that we just won that thing. And they had sirens going front and behind us. Miss Sarah Evers was our bus driver, and she was laying on the horn. People were pulling over on the sides of the roads, cheering. Guys were yelling out the window. And
not in Summertown in Lawrenceburg.
Oh, absolutely, they did.
Oh,
they listen. People were pulled over in Lawrenceburg. Summertown, we obviously there's not as many places to pull over, but in Lawrenceburg, I mean, people were waving and honking and cheering. I think Lawrence County as a whole pulls for each other, no matter what you're wearing across your chest. Now, do you want your school to represent that? Absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, bringing home championships to Lawrence County is pretty special, and the whole community and county can rally behind that. But once we got in past Lawrenceburg and into Leoma, I think we probably had 10 to 15 fire trucks, more police officers, ambulances, everything out in front with their lights on, sirens blazing, and we pull into Gary Lamb Field, and the entire bleachers, every seat in the house is full. People are cheering and they're playing music, and we get off the bus, and our announcer, Kyle Johnson, called every player out one by one, played their walk-up song, announced them, and fans and community cheered for them. And then after that, we had cake and all kinds of stuff, cupcakes, pictures, and just had a good time, just kind of having some fellowship and being around each other and supporting these guys for what they just did.
That's awesome. Zach Curtis, coach of the state championship, Loretto Mustangs, joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports today. Zach, April 18th, at Freed Hardeman, Milan 9, Loretto 1. That was y'all's last loss of the season, as far as I can tell. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
16 straight from there, including a pair of wins over Milan at the state tournament. I mean, how do you just sustain that type of success for that period of time? And as a coach, at what point are you saying, maybe we need to lose one? Yeah,
and the part was that was the day before that we'd lost, a game before that we'd lost to Summertown, and so the guys kind of and we said that, like, sometimes you got to get knocked down to find where you are and find who you are to get back up and keep going, and teams will either get up and keep moving forward, or they'll lay down. And I think this team encompassed that get up and move forward one step at a time. And something that us coaches have tried to instill into them for the longest time is we're built for this. We build our team to be ready for the postseason, and not to discredit anything in the regular season, but regular season is to prepare you for the postseason. That's why we try to play the hardest schedule we can as coaches put together. And so that loss with Milan was tough because we already had a bad taste in our mouth from getting knocked out by them last year. and having to see them again and having to sustain that big of a loss was definitely a punch to the gut. But I think our guys understood after that game what needed to take place to move forward and to get better and to get ready for the next series or the next district game we had.
Zach, I want to ask you a couple quick ones here. Number one, you and I spoke after the game, and obviously we've talked about your career at MTSU, and you've been in a lot of big ballparks over the years. And I asked kind of about your familiarity and, you know, how you felt, and you said you really felt okay, and you guys had, by and large, there were some stressful moments, but not, by and large, a relatively stress-free postseason run. And then you said you didn't get nervous, though, till that last inning. What kind of clicked and what was going through your mind as you guys tried to navigate and weave through a one-run ball game with 3 outs to win the state tournament there?
Yeah, like I said before, it wasn't the surroundings of anything that made me nervous. It was the magnitude of what was on the line. That was another thing we kind of kept trying to tell all the guys is like, understand what you're playing for. Don't get nervous by it, but just understand what you're playing for so your focus is a little bit more attentive. But in that situation, like you said, we had some moments that were stressful, but overall, not a very stressful tournament postseason. Every team we played was unbelievable. The talent level in 2A is just getting better and better. And every team we played brought everything they had, and we respected every opponent we had and what they brought to the table because they were all great. But that last game, I think just understanding what we could cement for ourselves and what we could bring back to Loretto got to me. Excuse my son in the background. But the nervousness came from having to game plan a little bit more because Clint was getting kind of to the end of his rope. We knew he's a competitor, and I think if I was to walk out there and ask him for that ball, he may tell me to turn around and walk back where I came from. But because that's just the type of competitor he is, and you could just kind of feel it building in the air, the 3 outs away. And when you walk that first guy, all of us coaches then kind of our throats were in our stomachs. We didn't know what to say, what to do, and we're kind of talking amongst ourselves. And Clint Seymour looks over at us, and even Miles, and they both look at all of us and tell us as coaches to calm down, that they got this. And understanding who Clint is and what he does and the competitor that he is, he fields a ground ball, a bunt right back to him. And as soon as that ball was laid down, me and David just looked and said, he's throwing it to second base. It didn't matter if he was getting him out or not. He was going for the lead out because he's an aggressive ball player and gets him out. And I think once that happened, then my nerves kind of started to subside a little bit. And once Braden Bennett made that catch on the wall against what was his name? Eubanks. I think, Eubanks hit the opposite of the ball. And listen, in any other ballpark in Riverdale, that ball is probably gone. And so once he caught that, it just kind of started to settle in and start to the realization that what was fixing to happen could happen.
How special was it for you winning it where you played your college career?
Oh, listen, that words can't describe that. Walking back on that field, anytime I get a chance to, just brings back a ton of emotions for me, definitely. And having played there and pitched so many times, that's what I'd always said. Being on the field wasn't the nervous part. Being in the dugout where Coach McGuire and Coach Pete stood for so long, and now Coach Myers stands, that's a humbling experience. I mean, just kind of viewing that from their perspective and watching the game unfold and watching those guys pour their hearts out into that game, and especially Huntington, the way they played. I mean, because they're just a great team. And watching it from a coach's perspective just gives me chills thinking about it, because it's just a special place in my heart.
Zach Curtis, coach of the state championship Loretto Mustangs, joining us here on Coach's Corner on Main Street Sports today. Coach, you mentioned Clint Seymour, you mentioned Miles Moore, you mentioned some of your other seniors. There's a guy that you may not have been sure you were going to have this year, and all he did was go out and become a Mr. Baseball finalist in Class 2A. Tell me about Carter Daniel and his senior season.
The best compliment I can give Carter Daniel is he's a competitor. And what I mean by that is he is a selfless, teammate to where all he's trying to do is do what's best for his team and his community. He doesn't think about himself. All he's thinking about is what can I do for my team in this moment, in whatever moment that is, whether it's at the plate or on the mound or in the field. And I would be lying if I said when he went down against Summertown, I thought I wouldn't see him on the field again wearing a Mustangs uniform. But he never wavered in his beliefs, in his faith, in his work ethic. He never wavered one time, and that's just a commitment to him and to his family, his support system for backing him and them telling him, if you believe it, we're going to believe it. And he told me, he said, I will be ready for opening day. And to be honest with you, I didn't believe him, because tearing an ACL is no easy task to come back from, especially being a pitcher. And he worked so tirelessly and so hard to get back throwing and conditioning himself and going to PT 3-4 times a week, that when that opening day rolled around, he looked at me and David and said, I got this. He said, I'm good. And he never faltered, and he only got better as the year went on. I think every time he touched the mound, he gave our team that thought that we have a great chance to win because Carter's on the mound.
That's great. Zach, we appreciate your time, man. Congratulations. And taking a 16-game win streak into next season. No pressure there, right?
Right. No, none at all.
Hey, thank you for appearing with us here on Coach's Corner, and we'll be catching up with you.
Appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you. Hey, before we close out this segment, we've got some – well, first, before we hand out some hardware, want to mention that the Tennessee Baseball Coaches Association put out its end-of-season all-class poll, and Loretto is listed among the top 20 teams from, again, all classes, all four of the Division I public school classes, both D2 private school classes. Loretto comes in at number 15. Interesting, but okay. This is a vote of the coaches from across the state. Farragut, no surprise, number 1, followed by Briarcrest, Nolensville out of Class 4A. Your Class 4A runner-up is number 3. Tullahoma 5, Columbia Academy, your D2A state champion, coming in at 6th. And the entire poll is right there on the screen if you're fortunate enough to be watching, so I don't want to be redundant and read it. But again, Loretto coming in at 15. Pretty good, solid Middle Tennessee representation there, including Class 1A, Eagleville at number 10. Wade, I guess you got a chance to see them against Richland, right?
Got to see Eagleville and got to catch them at the end. They had the game right before Loretto on Friday, and yeah, they looked even better than when I got to see them last year, and that was obviously a really good team last year. So they have just continued to get better. And we didn't get to mention this with Coach Curtis, but there's another guy on their team, Mason Tidwell, who's a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of those sophomores, and I didn't get to cover a lot of Loretto prior to last week. And after the first game, I'm going through the roster, and I'm like, okay, where's this kid going? He's a senior. No, he's only a sophomore. And you're like, okay, well, that was the other Tidwell, so that makes a little more sense. You just got your Tidwells confused. But he gets injured while he's pitching, but he comes back and had 2 home runs, including the only home run that was hit out of Reese Smith Field in all the championship games. During their championship game. So he had a fantastic tournament too. And you've probably touched on this and mentioned it, and we haven't really heard as much from the softball realm, but just something special about being at that park and having the championship games there is really, really special. And it was a fantastic event, and the Eagleville got some props. I got to cover Station Camp after they were done too. You know, they lost to a really good Tullahoma team, but man, Station Camp made their first state tournament, got all the way to the championship. It was a fun week of baseball in Murfreesboro, weather notwithstanding at times, I suppose.
Yeah, something like that. Our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Team of the Week to close out the school year is the Columbia Academy baseball team that won.
That's a great photo.
You know, Rick Bew did a great job with that, and does a great job with our Main Street Murray sports photography. But yeah, that was That was good right there. And unfortunately, you can't see the Providence Academy kid's head there as he's walking off. But yeah, we've got him walking in front of the dog pile there. But yeah, Columbia Academy winning their second state championship in 6 years, I guess. They won it in 2018. So their first in Division 2A.
Beat Loretto, right?
They beat Loretto the first time, yes. After Loretto was the defending state champion, and they beat them. Yeah. So, big win for the Bulldogs last week. They are our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week and our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week. Two-time state champ last week. Griffin Cooper, who won both the high jump and the triple jump as a senior for Columbia Academy. He won his third high jump title in as many years, and he will be going on to Alabama Huntsville to pursue both the high jump, the triple jump, and basketball. So congratulations to him and to the Columbia Academy baseball team, and obviously to Loretto and the job that they did over at Murfreesboro last week. When we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, we will return to the Lee Company studios, and we will be talking a little more baseball of the Major League persuasion. Stay tuned after this.
Wild horses are coming to Franklin. The Mustang Heritage Spectacular. 4 days of celebrity freestyle, liberty training, trick riding, and extreme Mustang makeover. Plus the shopping. Over 100 vendor spaces with clothing, food, home goods, and things you can't find anywhere else. All that and celebrity signings at a music stage too. June 20th through 23rd at Williamson County Ag Expo Park. Don't miss a moment with a weekend pass. MustangHeritageFoundation.org for tickets.
Hello, race fans, and welcome to Nashville Super Speedway.
That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. This summer, NASCAR is back at the Nashville Super Speedway. Get your tickets now to watch your favorite driver take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot June 28th through the 30th for the Ally 400 race weekend.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Header as the Milwaukee Braves split a pair with the Chicago Cubs, dropping the opener 10-9 before winning the finale 11-9. The 4 home runs doubled Thompson's total on the season from 4 to 8 and were part of a power surge that also saw Eddie Matthews and Hank Aaron go deep in each game, with Joe Adcock hitting a homer in the opener. That was this day in Braves history. Remember when the Braves used to be able to score runs? Yeah.
It is Throwback Thursday.
It is Throwback Thursday. Yeah. Maybe we will get a throwback to offense tonight because it didn't show up last night. Spencer Schwellenbach makes his major league debut after 2 starts at the Class AA level. Goes 5 innings. The only runs he gave up were on a 3-run homer by Lane Thomas in the 5th, but that was enough to get him beat as the Braves couldn't retaliate and fell 7-2. They have dropped 2 of 3 to the Nats in this series. The finale tonight, obviously, 620. Ronaldo Lopez goes 2-2 with a 175 earned run average for the Braves. It's Trevor Williams 4-0 with a 2.29 for the Nats. But just frustrating to watch this offense. They made a point last night. Last night was the 18th game this season that the Braves have not hit a home run. They won 18 games all year last year without hitting a home run. And we are still in May. So I think they had 4 total hits maybe. Matt Olson had a pair of doubles. Ozzie Albies had a double and a single, and that was about it offensively for Atlanta last night. So the struggle is real. And I don't know. I mean, in addition to offense, there's no offense, and there seems to be very little life in the dugout from a lot of, people that kind of get paid to observe that kind of thing. We don't get to see it as much on TV, but the Braves have at times kind of been accused or even embraced the idea of being very businesslike. And, maybe they need something to shake them up. Maybe they need a Jock Peterson or somebody. I don't know. But the vibe isn't really quite there in the midst of this sputtering offense. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, we thought that Washington and Oakland might be good for what ailed them. Well, Washington hasn't been to this point because, as well as the Braves have pitched, Washington has pitched just as well and maybe even better, obviously. So just a tough go right now for the Braves. We won't give up hope, though, because, again, it's still May. But
still early, and
way early.
Mackenzie Gore had a heck of a night last night. Some of that obviously has got to do with the struggling offense, but he fanned 10. That's the second most he's had this season. And I was keeping tabs. I didn't get to watch any of the game, but I was keeping tabs on Gore just because I get alerts when pitchers are kind of doing some big things, and he was kind of in the zone. He gave up 6 hits, but still managed to fan 10. So that's kind of the crazy thing to me is when you kind of rattled off some of those numbers there, the fact that he gave up 6 of the 8, but that means you had plenty of cracks at the bullpen and still only produced the 2 runs, which is obviously got to be frustrating.
Very, very. Tough night in Seattle as well, despite Justin Verlander being on the bump. Now, it sounds as if he did everything he could do.
Yeah, caught the later innings of that one, and man, he was dealing. And I love this. Really, when you have the away team announce crew, they go one of two ways. They're either super homers, or they just the team is usually so bad they just have no choice but to kind of gush over the other team. But ironically, as good as Seattle was, they were oohing and awing over Verlander, and man, he was dealing, and that's what makes it frustrating, the fact that they did end up losing that game in 10, because he goes 7 innings, struck out 9, gave up a solo homer. That was his only blemish. I mean, it was kind of a real throwback game, as Houston got on the board in the 4th, but then Verlander gave up that oopsie in the 5th. And I thought there was a chance he would come back out, maybe even for an extra inning, because the Seattle crew, man, they were just all over Verlander. You know, he's a throwback. And they raised a great point, Mo, and I'll be curious your thoughts on this. Verlander's up to like, 264 or 260-ish career wins. And they basically, the Seattle crew phrased it and said, that obviously is not a number that's probably going to be getting touched anytime soon by anybody. And so with the way that pitchers are treated now, is 200 really kind of the new 300. And so they had a full inning kind of worth of discussion there on that topic, because Verlander and Clayton Kershaw, and the third person is escaping me, your 3 active wins leader. Verlander's ahead of the second place guy by like 30 or 40 wins. So nobody else is really even close. And so it was frustrating to watch him have such a great performance, like you said, only to lose it in the 10th.
It's not Garrett Cole, is it?
You know, actually, it might be Garrett Cole now that you say that.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's tough when you get that kind of
Max
pitching.
Scherzer, I stand corrected.
Oh, Scherzer, there we go. Yeah, how do we forget that?
Verlander's got 260, Scherzer's got 214, and Kershaw's got 210. Cole is 4th, so he's in the mix. Cole's only got 145, so a lot of catching up to. But that was that just kind of caught my attention. Yeah, they're debating, hey, 300 wins seems like it ain't going to happen for anybody outside of maybe Verlander.
I don't think 300 will ever happen again, just because pitchers don't go like that. But,
yep. So you're going to have to readjust your kind of expectations or your framework there, because 200 may have to be the new 300 at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Wade, as much as we are lamenting our favorite team's performances, at least we're not the Mets.
Oof.
New York lost 10-3 to the Dodgers at Citi Field last night, falling 11 under 500 with that loss. And reliever Jorge Lopez, for lack of a better phrase, just had a meltdown. He got thrown out of the game by the third base umpire, threw his glove into the stands, went on a rant in the clubhouse where he either said he was the worst teammate or that was the worst team, depending on whose interpretation you get, and was designated for assignment. Said when he was asked about the glove throwing incident after the game, he said he did not regret throwing it. And then again, said in Spanish either that the Mets were the worst team in MLB or he was the worst teammate in MLB, and either did not go over well with the Mets administration. So
he went full Vince Young and threw the equipment in the stands, right? I mean, that's what I thought of when I was reading that story last night. Like you said, just kind of had a meltdown, and designated for assignment in his future, not surprisingly.
Yeah, and a 40-minute players only meeting followed last night's game as the Mets try to figure out how they got here. and things are not going well.
You know, and probably a lot of those guys are, whether they said it out loud or not, are wondering, well, is he right?
You know,
I mean,
there has to be, if you're being Billy Evans, you got to wonder how maybe he's right. So that takes care of hour one of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, it'll be Throwback Thursday with our throwback interview with Valeria Shabilla, talking a little Nashville Soccer Club when we come back. Join us.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Second hour of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, starts right now. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios. And as we've said, we are now going to throw it back to our recent conversation with Valeria Shabilla as we discussed the Nashville Soccer Club after Gary Smith's dismissal as its founding coach. NSC picked up their first victory since Gary Smith's firing last night, winning 2-0 at Cincinnati. And some of what we discussed with Valaire kind of came to fruition last night. Wouldn't you agree, Wade?
Absolutely. Big win for the boys in gold as they go on the road, snatch 3 points at Cincinnati.
Let's throw it to Valaire. We are now joined by Valaire Shabilla to talk a little everyone in. Valaire, what was your reaction? Good afternoon. What was your reaction to the news from yesterday morning that Gary Smith would not be going forward as coach of NSC?
Yeah, it's similar to what Wade said. Thank you for having me, by the way, and good afternoon to you as well. But similar to what was said, I mean, I think I've said it before. I don't think it's an unfair thing to do for Nashville SC at this point of how far kind of Gary Smith have gotten them. I do think the timing of it was the most shocking. I don't think anybody was surprised that he was relieved of his duties, but the fact that it happened between these two games, I mean, we talked to him to prep for the Atlanta game, which is tomorrow. And after winning the Wednesday night game and somewhere in between there, they let go of the coach. I think it's a very weird thing to do it in between those two games. At the same time, look, if that's the decision, I think there's some strategic thing behind this. Letting go of Gary Smith right now means that Nashville SC are the first team in MLS this season to let go of their manager. That means they have every single candidate out there to interview right now for this position before anyone else even gets a chance to do so. So I think there was a little bit of that going into their minds as well. We haven't heard anything about who the possible candidate is because this news just happened yesterday, obviously. If I had to guess, the only reason why it would make sense to kind of let go of him in between those two games is because they have something cooking or something's coming up. That would be my only guess onto why they would do it in between these two games. You have a rivalry game coming up against Atlanta, mid-afternoon game. Team just won. Seems like a really weird time to do it, but that would be my guess.
That was kind of our thought as well, Valaire, that, the team just won. They lost over the weekend over at Charlotte. It might have made a little bit more sense earlier in the week, but I guess if you've decided that that's the direction that you need to go in, then you need to go ahead and go that way.
Yeah, I also think, like in terms of Gary himself, I think he might have known going into the game. I wouldn't be surprised if he did know coming into the game, and the way he answered certain questions post-match made me think that maybe something was told to him beforehand. I don't think any of the players knew. I think that's something that maybe he told them after the match. Yeah, I mean, look, I want to talk a little bit about Gary Smith because I think what he did for Nashville SC is huge. And I think it might go unnoticed because of how it ended, which didn't end well, obviously. We heard very loud boos when he was announced in the stadium, which is honestly very disappointing for the way that he helped Nashville SC become this sort of what I described as victims of their own success and victim of his own success for the most part, because they haven't missed the playoffs. They've never missed the playoffs. And if you look at expansion teams, that's not the story. You look at Cincinnati, you look even at Inter Miami with huge money coming in. They still didn't. You look at Austin, they had one good season. You look at St. Louis right now, this is their second season. They're struggling. So Charlotte, the highest they've made it is a play-in game last season. So when you look at all these expansion teams struggling and you look at Nashville SC making the playoffs every single year, yes, of course you want to win trophies. That's what you play the game for. But at the same time, the floor was so high that it almost made it impossible to succeed unless you win that trophy, unless you bring that trophy. And a lot of that was thanks to Gary Smith, what he did with limited resources when they first came into the league. Now, the salaries just got released yesterday, right before the announcement got released. And Nashville SC have the fourth highest payroll in MLS now. That wasn't always the case. They were in the bottom or at least in the middle for the most of his tenure. This is the first year that they are the fourth highest payroll, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second. But he hadn't always had these resources. And without those resources, he still took this team to consecutive playoffs, both in USL and MLS. And I think did a great job with what he was given, honestly.
So that said, then, Valera, is this a more money, more problems? Is this a Biggie Small situation here?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's not about necessarily more money, more problems, but maybe I think this is the biggest indicator that spending doesn't mean much in this league. I think spending wisely means a lot more than spending in this league. One of the best teams over the last 5 years in MLS is Philadelphia Union. I don't think they've cracked top 10 in salaries this whole time. You'll look at even somebody like LAFC spending less than Nashville SC, and they are, now they have some signings that probably will put them right around Nashville SC coming up. But the point is, what I heard from fans every single time these salaries were released were people telling me that if Nashville SC isn't spending enough, Nashville SC isn't spending enough. And my sort of way of looking at it is that it's not really about the spending, it's about how and what that money is going towards, right? So right now what we saw is, yes, Nashville SC have spent this much money, and guess what? The success doesn't just come with spending. It's a lot more, and that's the other part about Gary Smith, is that he's part of this puzzle, right? There's a general manager, Mike Jacobs, there is a CEO, and Ian Ayre, and there's an owner in John Ingram. Those three we rarely ever hear from, because Gary Smith is the one we hear from every week. Gary Smith's name is being announced in the stadium. He hears the boos. He faces the music from us, the media, and even the fans. So I'm interested to see what comes out of what these other people have to say, because their decisions is, in many ways, is almost as important, if not more important, than Gary Smith, because they're the ones who hired Gary Smith, right? So I think there's been a little bit of maybe, this is, I guess, people are willing to give them benefit of the doubt, depending on what hire and what they do past this, because they've never been in this position of hiring a new manager. But in terms of spending, if I'm the owner and I'm looking at this report and I'm saying, I gave you all this money, you have the 4th highest salary in MLS, my first question is, where's my trophy, right? Like, where is so I think it trickles down way further than just Gary Smith, and I think that's maybe the first piece of the puzzle that they will have to figure out going forward.
Absolutely. And Blair, you tweeted yesterday, kind of if you read some tea leaves, or you kind of insinuated a little bit, obviously this was a big situation, and Gary's kind of last words were really kind of thanking the players and supporting the players. And I agree with you. You obviously way more so than me, but the few matches I've been able to go up there and cover, he's been fantastic to work with from a media standpoint. And so in that sense, you are sad to see him go, but kind of it always seemed to come back to this word that we spoke about on this show a couple of weeks ago. Just seems like it was stale or flat. And especially when you kind of drop the knowledge on us that the payroll was so high, that obviously makes it look even more stale or flat. And is this a chance now for Nashville? And I want to ask you maybe about candidates in a moment, but is this now a chance for Nashville that maybe we quote unquote plateaued to a certain extent, and now here's a chance to really maybe hopefully take it to an even higher level?
I think it's a clean slate for them here. I think for Nashville, it's a clean slate. I don't think there are many expectations to do much this season, even though if they get the right hire in, I think they can still compete this season, honestly, because it's so early on, again, which is why they probably made this move early on. I do think it's a clean slate for them, and I think this kind of it is honestly an end of an era in a lot of ways. I am curious to see what sort of manager they go after, and we have almost zero data to tell us how they handle a situation like this, because this has never happened. Nashville SC has had one manager since the day they were formed back in USL to yesterday. They've only had one manager. They've never had to do a manager search. They've never had to interview managers before. So we don't know what that process looks like. We haven't seen it to where, if you look at even like the Titans or something like that, that process is a lot more transparent, first and foremost, in the NFL. So you get to hear about all these interviews. It's not like that in MLS. It's not like that in any soccer anywhere in the world. You might hear some ramblings here and there, but it's not going to be as transparent as something like the NFL, for example. So all that to say, I think what they have in front of them here is an opportunity to maybe take what they learned from Gary Smith. Nashville SC is no longer an expansion team. This is their 5th year in MLS. They are a team that has established themselves in MLS. They have a stadium of their own that they almost sell out every single game, regardless of results even. And it's time for them to, I think, maybe ask, well, what sort of soccer we want to play? Because they were kind of boxed into this defensive mind, Moneyball situation. But I'm not very familiar with baseball, but I don't think Moneyball means your 4th highest MLS salary, right? Like, I don't think that's Moneyball anymore. I think now we're looking at a different iteration of Nashville SC. This is Nashville SC 2.0. And it's up to them what that looks like. If they hire a manager from overseas, if they hire a manager who plays attacking soccer, if they hire a manager who maybe is up and comer from USL or something like that, it could be any of those, right? And it's depending on what they want to do with it. But I do truly believe that this season is still in play for Nashville SC, and I don't think they're operating as in this is for next season. I think they're operating this is for this season.
That's what I was going to ask you, Valera. Do you expect them to hire a coach before this season ends? I mean, what do you feel like the timetable is for getting Gary Smith's successor in place?
I think we're looking at it sooner rather than later. I think that the fact that they did it early on, like we kind of talked about already, the fact that the interim head coach is players development coach with Nashville SC, who hasn't had really even an assistant job anywhere in MLS. He's coached youth teams. So I don't think he's a long-term plan. Now, obviously, things can change, of course. He is the interim head coach at the moment. What I would say is that making this move right before the summer makes me think that there's probably something that has to do with maybe the European season ending. The European season ends next week. That means there will be a lot of managers free to hire or at least interview to where I guess the domestic market is open at any time. You can go and get your guy. But this kind of maybe gives them a little more options to go out to Europe and not have to get somebody mid-season, not midweek. So I would say we're probably looking at a hire sooner rather than later. And I think internally from the organization, they believe that this season is still in play for them.
And they're what, 3-4-5 on the year? 3 wins, 4 losses, 5 ties. Is that correct?
Yep.
So
they're a point away from. Sorry, they're tied in points with the play-in game, and they're a point away from being in the playoff position. So it's not really a big deal.
So, as dire as things have maybe looked on the field, they're not in as bad a position as it feels like. Is that
I think so. I think part of it is what I said. I think last time you had me on the show, I told you like a result or two will change the entire trajectory of this team, because 9 teams from the Eastern Conference make the playoffs. That's 9 out of 15 teams. So unless you're really terrible, you're probably going to make the playoffs. And that's the reality of MLS right now. And if you make the playoffs, you get hot. And if a new manager comes in, maybe he brings in 1 or 2 of his guys. Maybe we see 1 or 2 of Gary's guys leave. These things happen all the time, right? Maybe it brings there's a big phenomenon in soccer called new manager bump. It happens almost every time, right? So we've seen it in Europe. We've seen it here in America. And I guarantee you we're probably going to see glimpses of it Saturday. Even if you don't see result fully, we're going to see different play, or players play a little bit differently because there's somebody else to impress. And because whoever their next boss is, right, whoever the next manager is, they want to be in good graces with them because they want to play. So I think for Nashville right now, it's this season, again, it's totally in play simply because a win or two, all of a sudden they're talking about 5th, 6th seed in the East. And look, you keep winning, maybe you play a different style. All of a sudden you're talking about hosting playoffs games. Like it's still all in play.
Winning cures a lot. And you made an interesting point there, Valera, with the new manager bump. I mean, sometimes, and I was talking to somebody about something different, but sometimes a new voice just kind of re-energizes things. Maybe you've seen it in other sports. Obviously, I'm not as immersed in soccer as you are, or even Wade. But I mean, so that is kind of a phenomenon that you have seen in that sport as well. Then,
yeah, it's very common. Even you'll see like a longtime manager leaving, and then the interim will kind of get the team going for Now that has an expiration date. From what we've seen, right? It's like about 3 games or so, and then things kind of start getting back to it. But I think there are these people. Not that the players are hate Gary or anything like that. I think far from it, but I think when you hear the same message for 5 years, chances are if you hear something different, you're going to perform a little bit different, right? And I think if anything, this shows from Nashville SC that if you're not up to bar, we're setting the bar up here, we want to win trophies, and if you're not up to it, then we're going to get rid of you. And I think that message might motivate players a little bit more. And I think that's all part of it. And if you have a new manager come in, maybe they see a little bit different in a technical standpoint. Maybe they see a player play in a different position. Maybe they get that belief back and push to do something special.
Valer, I'm curious. Two questions. Number one, is Nashville a big enough draw in your mind to attract a high profile, at least on paper, name to come in and be the manager here in Music City?
To an extent, yes. I don't think I don't think Jose Mourinho's coming here, and I really don't. If he does, those press conferences are going to get really exciting. I'm just going to
talk about one extreme to the other with Gary to Mourinho at that point, right?
I don't think I'll be saying the same thing I said about Gary about Jose Mourinho. With that said, I think there's still opportunity here. We saw Charlotte get Dean Smith, who isn't necessarily a huge name, but he's a Premier League manager at the end of the day, and they were able to get him. And throughout the years, we've seen even players like Wayne Rooney come to DC, and obviously Tata Martino is another big name. But now when you talk about DC and Miami, maybe it's a little different markets and all that. I think from a Nashville perspective, I think you can sell this project to a lot of managers. I think when you say, hey, look, we gave the last guy 7 years to figure this out, I think that's going to play really well with a new manager, right? I think when you also tell them that you have a stadium, you have a fan base that cares, you have players, you have Walker Zimmerman, who was MLS Player of the Year 3 times. You have Hani Mukhtar, who won MVP just 2 years ago. And not to mention all the other players on the team, of course, whether it's Jacob Schaffelberg, who's a Canadian international, or Tyler Boyd, who is still a very, very good MLS player, and Sam Surridge, who is a $7 million striker. Like, this is not a team that is a hard sell, I don't think, when it comes to getting new managers. So I think, yes, it's a possibility. Just based on how this team has operated, getting players in, I find it a little bit hard to believe that they will go and get the biggest name in management. I really don't think they operate in that way. I think it's way more likely that we see a domestic manager, maybe somebody who knows the league a little bit, and maybe it still has that name recognition, but not as big as, a David Moyes, for example, who's been a name thrown out there. I don't see Nashville going for a name like that. Look, I think David Moyes would be great in Nashville. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if the culture matches that. But like I said last time, we don't know who they're going to go for. We just do not know, because this has never happened before, right?
You're tugging at my Everton heartstrings, and our buddy Clay Trainham's as well when you say that name there. But I am curious, what does your gut tell you? And it seems like maybe the domestic route, because it seems like certainly, even if you look as close by as Memphis has had a really successful run. And so I'm curious, that's really, to me, the real question in all of this is how high profile does Nashville go? And Valer, it seems like you seem to think we're going to kind of maybe get somewhere in the middle, maybe not attract the biggest name, but also at the same time, maybe not have to take a flyer on somebody kind of completely at random, it seems like. Is that fair?
Guys back on?
Yep, we lost you briefly. I'm not sure if you heard much of that, Valaire, but just mainly, what does your gut tell you? Where does Nashville end up? It seems like somewhere maybe not the highest end, but also maybe not a low end manager as well.
Yeah, I think you're looking at somebody. I think I heard you mention Memphis right before everything cut off. Yeah, they had a really good USL manager who then went on to Charleston and who had found success there as well. So an up and comer USL manager, I don't necessarily get that out. I think that's a possibility for them. I think somebody like Gio Savarese, who was with Portland Timbers, for example, who made it to 2 different MLS Cup finals with Portland Timbers, he's probably in play. I'm just kind of talking about the people who have known this league for a while and are available. And there's a few of them. The biggest name of them all is Bruce Arena, who
Bob Bradley.
Bob Bradley, of course, still out there. He had a brief stint in Norway where he was, and I think it's Norway, and then came back. And so there are sort of the established guys, right? The older established guys, and there are the up and comers, and there are the untested. There are players who are kind of never had a managerial job, is still wanting to kind of test the waters. I highly doubt they go that raw. I think they might go towards a USL guy or an MLS guy. I think those are the most likely routes for Nashville SC based on how we've seen them recruit players. You're recruiting a very American, very English sort of speaking locker room. If you go and get a manager from South America, that probably changes the dynamics a little bit. If you go and get a manager from maybe, Spain or something like that, things are probably a little different. But if you get an American manager who knows MLS really well, I don't think a whole lot changes. At the same time, since it is a clean slate, maybe Nashville SC are like, screw it, we are going to go this South American route, right? I mean, they can do that. They have the sort of capability to do something like that. So I think it's going to go. I honestly think the most likely scenario is they go with a more domestic sort of name. I think somebody within the MLS realms that we've heard of around here. And possibly a small chance that it could be a USL manager who's up and comer. I highly doubt again that will be a European name or a big name manager.
And whoever it is, Valaire, from everything that you've said, we shouldn't expect really to know anything until they announce it, basically.
Almost definitely, yeah. The way this team operates is very, very very little comes out. Very little comes out from this team. And even when you look at other MLS teams, they're not like that. I think you see it all the time. The only thing I will say is that because this is not just a Nashville SC thing, there are managers out there with agents who are going to try to link them to this job. Whether it's true or untrue, who knows? You're going to hear some ramblings about who got interviewed or who was considered or who would like the Nashville job all the time, because that happens every time. And I think those agents are going to push their clients, of course, towards something like that. Just depending on the source, don't always believe what you read. That's all I'm going to say. There are a couple really, really trusted sources in MLS that you can trust. Tom Bogert from The Athletic, I will go ahead and say, if Tom Bogert says it, chances are it's very, very true. And there are locally, my colleague Ben Wright, myself, there's a couple other local people who wouldn't know probably, because these are coming from external, right? Because it's coming from the other side. So I would say just keep an eye out. Don't trust one of those websites that just has like AI written articles. It's not wise. It's not. Don't trust everything on the internet. And there are a lot of trolls out there who just puts out tweets. Just verify the account, and I guarantee you Jose Mourinho will not be hired by Nashville SC. Famous last words.
Jurgen Klopp also not coming, I guess.
I don't think so. I do not think so.
What Valaire is telling you is, unless you see it with @Valaire Shabilla, be careful. Valaire, we appreciate you taking some time with us here on this Friday afternoon to delve a little deeper into this. Again, Nashville Soccer Club hosting Atlanta United at first touch at 12:45 tomorrow. Is that right?
12:30. Yeah, but
12?
they'll probably do 10 minutes of entertainment. So yeah, 12:45.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Over at Geodis Park, and we will be checking back in with you, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. And the game is on national television as well. So if you don't have Apple Pass, MLS Season Pass, I believe it's on Fox or Fox Sports, one of the two.
I believe you're right. So yeah, you can see it on regular TV. Joy. Valer, thanks, man. We'll catch up
Thank
with
you,
you.
brother.
Nashville Super Speedway. That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. This summer, NASCAR is back at the Nashville Super Speedway. Get your tickets now to watch your favorite driver take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to lock in your spot June 28th through the 30th for the Ally 400 race weekend.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Wild horses are coming to Franklin. The Mustang Heritage Spectacular. 4 days of celebrity freestyle, liberty training, trick riding, and extreme Mustang makeover. Plus the shopping. Over 100 vendor spaces with clothing, food, home goods, and things you can't find anywhere else. All that and celebrity signings at a music stage too. June 20th through 23rd at Williamson County Ag Expo Park. Don't miss a moment with a weekend pass. MustangHeritageFoundation.org for tickets.
Free Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company Studios. I'm in Columbia. Wade's in P-Town. And always nice when we're able to catch up with Valer Shabilla, let him give us some insight into the Nashville Soccer Club doings. And it's also nice when we can catch up with Joe Sullivan at Globe Sullivan. He is the proprietor of NASHVILLEHOOPS.BLOG, and he has, excuse me, taken a look at the 5 local Division I men's basketball programs post-portal, and he's going to distill everybody's situations down for us here. So, Joe, no pressure, but thanks for taking.
Well, how are you guys doing? It's good to be back on. I'm glad I
Well,
have you.
it's good to have you back on, man. I guess we survived spring fling last week, and we're kind of getting back into the regular swing of things, being here on a daily basis for a couple of hours. But as you look again, after, no one else can go into the portal now. Folks are still in there and can come out. But as you assess the local landscape, who do you feel like, speaking of surviving, who do you feel like survived the portal best and has, kind of regrouped the best to this point?
So here, I think I'm going to surprise you with this one, Mo. But I think Middle Tennessee did the best.
Well, I'm going to steal your thunder for just a second, because
sure.
The best thing that Middle was able to do, I think, was get their own guy back out of the portal.
That's right. Yeah. You don't see it happen too often. And Justin Porter, their leading scorer, back on the team. And it is people usually leave and don't come back in the portal. It's often rarely a two-way street for someone who wants to know U-turns or K-turns. And the other thing to keep in mind with them is that Cameron Weston, their point guard, who probably would have been their leading scorer if he didn't get hurt tearing his ACL early in the season, he's coming back. So that gives them a really solid backcourt, two veteran guys. And I don't want to blow his first name, so I'm looking down to make sure I get. So Justin Buford is coming back too, sort of the swing player. And then in the portal, knowing that before he knew Porter was coming back, he went out and he got a really interesting forward. This is Kamari Lands, who is 6'8". He's from Louisville. And this is a really highly recruited player who has had a disappointing college career at Louisville. But, I mean, the situation at Louisville was really not conducive to any kind of success, I'd say. And so I think this is a really good recruit by Nick McDevitt to bring this kid could blossom. And then, Mo, I think we've talked about this kid, this Jaron Hall. He's from Tulsa, but he's a local kid here who's going to help them, I think. And then another player, Jalen Counter, who was the leading scorer at IUPUI, which I think is changing its name soon to IU. IU Indianapolis. I think they're changing it too.
Oh, wow.
No, we can't call them Ooey Pooey anymore.
That's unfortunate. That really is.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. And a guy named Assam Mustafa, who is another big guy who was at TCU last year, didn't do much. But the year before at Coastal Carolina, he was very productive in the Sun Belt. And I think it translates to CUSA. Right. I think all these guys are going to help. And I think it puts we have to consider Middle Tennessee based on this roster and the changes that Nick was able to make, that they're going to be a contender in CUSA.
Health permitting.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Cameron Western's huge. How he gets back from that ACL, it is. It's usually a 12-month thing, unless you're someone really special. I guess people who do heal differently.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Middle was expected to be a contender in CUSA last year, and again, the Weston injury just kind of submarined all of that. So yes. I guess the good thing is we saw some guys that kind of had to step up in some different ways on that team, and then we saw some guys that just have kind of, naturally improved, just the progression. Chris Loof is a guy that we talk a lot about with Chip Walters, and this guy going from his freshman to his sophomore year, you feel like he's going to be a key contributor.
I think he will, yes. And Nick loves him. Yeah, he loves him as a big guy, and he'll definitely be a part of this. And just gives him more depth. We're mentioning like 8-9 guys right now. I think Nick would like to play more, and I think he's going to have the bodies next year. Which
I'm fascinated with Mustafa because, like you said, this is a big body kid. He didn't do a lot at Texas Christian last year, but he was solid at Coastal Carolina before that, and this may kind of be a water finds its own level kind of guy, with him getting back to a mid-major, a G5 type situation. That just may work better for him.
I think that's well said. And when I talked to Nick about him, Nick said that this is a kid who's done it. He has a record of playing well for Coastal Carolina, and that's the type of production he's expecting. So it will be, averaging double figures, averaging 7-8 rebounds. That's what he's expecting out of this kid.
Mm-hmm. So he's kind of Justin Coleman Jones 2.0.
Replacement. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Who ended, Coleman Jones ended up at San Diego State, which quite honestly seems like a big leap to me. I mean, he came on at the end of last year, but it still seems like a big leap to me.
I hope he does well.
Yeah, of course. We wish him the best.
And
good kid.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, obviously there's going to be buzz around Vanderbilt with the new coach and everything else, but they made a couple of solid, if surprising, additions, I guess.
Yes. So I would have ranked them second if you had asked me to rank them. And here's why. Last year we talked a lot, Mo, about how I think you guys agreed with me, that the Vanderbilt roster just wasn't good enough to compete in the SEC. And this roster, all these transfers, is better than last year's team already. Now, they still have to practice, play together, mesh, get the concepts of Mark Byington. But I believe the talent level has already risen. And that's what they need to start with. You got to start with that. Mm-hmm. And I think they have some, A.J. Hoggard coming from Michigan State, proven Big Ten guard. Guess he had a little bit of a disappointing season last year. He didn't shoot the ball well, but still solid as far as I'm concerned. And then Jason Edwards from North Texas averaged 19 points a game, I think. Very confident kid. Our friend Joey Dwyer, writing for Rivals.com, wrote a story about him. And, boy, he is raring to go, Jason Edwards. He sounds like a really confident kid. He's going to provide the offense that maybe they were lacking last year. And a type of player I think that Mark Byington was smart to take a chance on, Kajani Wright. He's a former McDonald's All-American, and he played at Southern Cal. Didn't do much, but this is a kid with talent. And I think you look at those three transfers, those are the big ones. But in addition, Tyler Nickel coming from Virginia Tech. He was also at North Carolina as a shooter. And the kid I'm hearing good things about from my people up in Boston is the kid from BC. They got Devin McLaughlin, who's like a 6'6" forward. So people at BC loved him. So I like those 5 transfers a whole lot.
Joe, I love the way you put it on NASHVILLEHOOPS.blog is, well, you went 9-23 last year. Who knows how this year is going to be, but could it really be any worse? And if you go out and you win those gimme games and you take care of business and then maybe go 500 in the SEC, seems like a decent little formula to get your way back in the NCAA tournament.
It really does. And it can't be any worse. I mean, it just can't, as far as I can see. It's I think this group's better. Now they still have to play as a team. That you're looking at them individually, and the pieces need to fit together. And that's up to Mark Byington. And it's a whole new team. Let's face it. So it might take some time.
Joe, here's something that I think needs to be at least explored. Vanderbilt being such a high academic institution, how hard is it to transfer in there? They've got 10 guys coming out in there from out of the portal. And once you've got college classes and that kind of thing, I mean, clearly they figured something out. They negotiated all that. But how much of an additional challenge is that for Vanderbilt, recruiting guys out of the portal, given the academic requirements and expectations and that kind of thing? Do you have a feel for that?
I do. And it is, I wish I could, I'm not going to speak to specifics well enough to, I would be probably not explaining it correctly, but there are limitations to the number of players that they could actually entertain accepting as transfers. Now, it's not like they're narrowed down to nothing, but there are some that are just not going to make it at Vanderbilt. And it is it can be a problem. And they ran into it with a couple of recruits, but still able to get 10 kids in here that has brought the talent level up to more what it should be. Now, look, this isn't I'm not saying they're going to be able to finish ahead of it, Alabama and Calipari U in Fayetteville, but it is and others, they're going to be very, very tough. It is. I think Kentucky will be good again too. By the way, I like Mark Pope, but this is going to be better. This is going to be more exciting than it was.
It's interesting though when you say, Joe, and I'm not taking exception to your comment that their talent level is better, but it's interesting when you look at your synopsis again on NASHVILLEHOOPS.blog. Lost in the portal, guard Tyron Lawrence to Georgia. Forward Colin Smith to UC Santa Barbara, guard Jason Rivera Torres to San Francisco. I mean, Van Allen Lubin is going to North Carolina. I mean, they've got some guys that are going to some programs that are pretty inarguably better than Vanderbilt. So, I mean, when you say that the talent level has come up, I could understand if someone pushed back on that. Let me just say that.
Yes, it's a debatable point, of course, and it's subjective. And I think that of all the guys you just mentioned, Van Allen Lubin is the one that's the biggest loss because he really started to come on last year. And Jerry Stackhouse said because it was finally healthy, he became maybe their best player in the last few weeks. And I think showing where he landed shows the potential he has. That being said, Mo, he's not going to tear it up in North Carolina. He's just not that good. I think he's a good player, but he's going to be probably a bench player for them.
Okay.
I think the player that's going to North Carolina that's probably going to make a bigger impression is Belmont's, Cade Tyson, who ended up there. He'll make a bigger contribution than Van Allen Lubin, in my opinion. Yeah, that's my prediction.
There.
And it's but
that was Joe Sullivan with that hot take, y'all. So
and look at Terry Lawrence was never one of my favorite players. It seems like I think it was a mistake that he was positioned as the best player on the team, and the record reflects that. It is there's a guy with more turnovers than assists. He leads the team in turnovers. I mean, that just jumps out at me. For 2 straight years, he did. He's okay.
He's all right, huh?
Yeah.
Not even all right, just all right. Yeah.
But he's not. You're not going to win many games in the SEC with him as your best player. How about that?
And he was, and they didn't. Yeah.
Right.
Joe Sullivan of NASHVILLEHOOPS.blog joining us here on Main Street Sports today. TSU had one player at one point during this process.
The cheese stands alone. Canute Wood, the last play, and I gotta get over there and talk to him about being the only guy on scholarship at one point. How were the team meetings when you were the only guy? Just you and Penny. So Penny and the staff had to rebuild an entire team in a few weeks, and this is different at Vanderbilt because there was no coaching change, and I have my doubts. I would rank them last of the 5, to be honest, coming out of the portal. And they're relying on people that are – I know they're very high on a player named Travis Harper, who's a guard. He played at Clayton, Georgia, Division II, did very well there. But these players coming up the ladder, I'm not sure if it translates all the time. We shall see.
Obviously, Belmont got hit pretty hard.
So
Cade Tyson.
Yeah, Cade Tyson. Malik Dia came out, decided not to stay in the NBA draft. Did you see that yesterday?
I did not, but
he officially announced.
I think that's a great idea.
And now he's at Ole Miss, and then Jacoby Gillespie at Maryland, which he will also do very well there. He will be, he'll be Maryland's. They're going to love him as their starting point guard. What a great player he is.
How do you feel like they bounce back?
Belmont. So I really have my doubts about Belmont being able to replace the talent they lost. Those 3 players. I mean, the portal ones, the transfer portal players that are coming in are really one is, Jonathan Pierce comes from Memphis. He's a big guy. I think he's going to move into the lineup. He should be a good player for them. So in a sense, he could replace Dia. I don't think he's going to be as good. The other ones, they have something in common. So Carter Witt and Aiden Noyes, Carter Witt coming from Furman, Aiden Noyes coming from Richmond. These are both players that started early in the season and ended up getting benched. They couldn't stay in the starting lineup for their schools, and now they end up transferring to Belmont. Casey, great coach. He can maybe unlock that talent. But these kids, they're coming off seasons where their coach for last year took them out of the starting lineup, shortened their playing time. So I don't know. That I can't have a lot of optimism knowing that until I see something different.
All right.
A lot of work to do for Coach Alexander, it sounds like.
It is. And I don't, so no matter how many players transferred, he got hit the hardest. They lost 4, but they got hit the hardest. There's no doubt about it.
What are your thoughts on Lipscomb and Lenny Acuff and what he's got to deal with?
So very similar to Middle Tennessee, they get a player back who sat out. Jason Ignatovic is coming back, 6'8". His production will replace what they're losing with Darian Boyd transferring to Charleston in terms of points. That's pretty much a fair exchange. He should be a close to 20-point scorer for them. If he doesn't get hurt again, health has been a problem for him. And then I think Lenny did a nice job bringing in a few guards to try to replace the other guards he lost. They still have Will Pruitt and Joe Anderson coming back, who are going to be, they're both terrific. And so these, Giassi, Powell, and Miles is from Jacksonville. And Miles Wright is a kid from Rockhurst College in Kansas City. Again, a kid moving up from D2. We'll see. And then a very interesting one, this kid named Ross Candolino, who was a walk-on at Wisconsin. And so he didn't play at all in 2 seasons there, basically. But in my text messages with Lenny, very high on him. He is coming from a Big Ten school. So among these 3, he's going to use them all to sort of replace the guards that they lost in the portal, and sort of a group, lift up the whole production as a group.
Kind of intrigued by the Air Force transfer, Kellen Boylan.
Yeah, so he's coming with an injury, the injury. So I'm not sure what his production will be early on. So we'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, it could be interesting. I know. Well, he's well coached out there by Joe Scott, who I think is a great coach. Jersey guy like myself, Joe Scott.
There you go. Do you feel like all 5 of them are done, or because again, guys can still come out of the portal? Do you anticipate?
Yeah. So Belmont is done. Vanderbilt is done. Tennessee State still has 2, and Lipscomb still has 1. Middle Tennessee is done. So it's just Lipscomb and Tennessee State are the only ones that have openings. So it's I was wondering with the way this has trended that will coaches just not fill their rosters? And then John Calipari came out and said that he might not do that at Arkansas. He might just stick with 10. And I guess your NIL money spreads out better that way. I don't know.
There you go.
But it is in talking with Nick McDevitt about this, he told me that a lot of these rosters will not be filled until July, when players realize the pot of gold is not at the end of the rainbow for them, and then will come back. And so, but he filled his roster. He doesn't need it. But I'm assuming Penny and Lenny will add players. One player for Lipscomb and 2 players for Tennessee State.
Okay. All right. Joe Sullivan, you can find him on Twitter at Globe Sullivan. He is the primary contributor for his blog, NASHVILLEHOOPS.blog, along with Joey Dwyer and some other guys. But they do a great job on local basketball, and you owe it to yourself to go check them out. Please do so. Again, NASHVILLEHOOPS.blog. Joe Sullivan joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Joe, we appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
We'll catch up. We are going to skip the final break with good reason. When Women's College World Series, as we said at the top, is underway. UCLA opened with a 4-1 victory over Alabama. I think Duke and Oklahoma are currently underway. Those games will be followed later today by
Stanford, Texas.
Stanford, Texas, and Oklahoma State and Florida in the nightcap out at Oklahoma City. Wonder who the crowd will be for in that one.
Yeah. Duke ahead currently on Oklahoma at the moment, 1-0, but a lead is a lead.
A lead is a lead. Yeah. What inning are we in?
Bottom 3 at the moment.
Ooh, okay. Almost halfway home. All right. Go Duke. Duke making their debut at the Women's College World Series, by the way. So good luck to the Lady Devils. Wade, your hockey Stanley Cup Western Conference Finals got evened up last night as Edmonton down Dallas 5-2. I don't know how much you paid attention to that.
Had that on all night, man. And you want to talk about dead in the water. Edmonton was DED dead. Just 6 minutes in, Dallas had 2 goals already, all the energy out of that arena. And somehow, some way, Edmonton rallies to tie it up at the end of the first. And then they scored 2 more in the second and got an empty netter at the end. Big win for them as that series is now all square at 2 games apiece.
5 unanswered for the Oilers. Okay. All right. So game 5 is tomorrow night. Is that right?
Game 5 tomorrow night, and then we're going to have yet another good one at MSG tonight. Speaking of 2-2 series, Panthers and Rangers on ESPN tonight will be a good one as well.
So they're beating up on each other as opposed to the NBA, where the Timberwolves go to Dallas and try to keep their hopes alive in Game 5 tonight.
Yeah, don't know. Wouldn't be shocked if Minnesota wins, just playing at home, of course, but it feels like we're just kind of circling the inevitable here. And I guess the Celtics, they can maybe stay in Cancun another day if they want before they got to head back to get ready for next Thursday.
You say this one's in Minnesota?
Yep, Minnesota will be home tonight. And, so I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if Minnesota plays well at home. But like I said, it just feels like Dallas is got this thing all but wrapped up. But they obviously would love to take care of it sooner and later.
Yeah, it's not if but when, it feels like, I guess.
Feels like it, yeah.
Yeah. We talked, Joe just mentioned Malik Dia deciding to pull out of the draft and instead transfer to Ole Miss from Belmont. Caleb Love pulled out of the draft. He's going back to Arizona. And Mark Sears has pulled out of the draft, and he's coming back to Alabama. So a couple of All-American guards deciding to stay put at the collegiate level for the upcoming season. So I'm sure those programs will welcome them back.
Alabama folks, they're already looking good, but man, it seems like they're going to be even better at this point.
Should be interesting for sure. Jalen Waddle, did you see this?
Got paid, right?
He got paid big time. He got a 3-year, $84.75 million extension. And, it struck me as odd because I wasn't even sure, and I'm not sure. Is he the best receiver on that team?
You can make the argument.
I guess. I didn't really see it coming, but yeah. But I'm all for
anybody. A lot, obviously, but Waddle is he's holds the fort down as well. So they got a perfect little 1-2 punch.
Hey, I'm all for anybody getting paid, man. Go secure that bag. Absolutely. Hey, that's going to do it for the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back to the Lee Company studios tomorrow, we will be joined by the Sounds' Jeff Hem at 2:20, and we will be joined by Ben McKee talking a little UT baseball as we open postseason play in the NCAA. So come back 2 o'clock tomorrow right here. We'll see you.